Film as a medium has become increasingly popular over the last generation. As of 2020, the film industry globally is valued at $235 billion, with the expectation that it will grow to over $400 billion by 2030. Despite streaming services, piracy, and a global pandemic all pushing people away from the box office, movies continue to pull in more money than ever. And even though there are more options than ever for content, films continue to come out at an accelerating rate. In 2016, over 735 films were released in theaters in the US, not including any film festivals, straight to streaming services, or personal passion projects. With all these options for a consumer, how can you ensure your movie will be seen? Is this success tangible, and are there specific reasons the films that succeed do, and the ones that don't, fade into obscurity? And even more specifically, could we examine the films that do succeed and create a formula for a successful box office hit? To find out, we're going to examine the top box office success over the last 2 decades and see if they share any similar characteristics that led them to succeed where others failed.
So let's look at these movies as a whole first, because they share a lot of commonality. Of the top 20 and even into the top 50, the highest parental guide rating is PG-13, with only one exception. Following this trend, 5 of the top 20 movies are aimed specifically at children, with family-friendly storylines, visuals, and music that are simple enough for a child to understand and enjoy.
The problem here arises is that children don't have any money, and a youth like Spirit doesn't work at your local Cineplex. The movies that truly transcend the for kids tag are the most successful, something that kids can enjoy, but also with deeper meaning or better entertainment value for an older age.
A perfect example of this is in Finding Dory. On the surface level, it's a great entertaining movie for kids who enjoy the talking fish, but on a deeper level, there's a lot of relatable personal conflict within Dory and her past. It's good for kids, and it's good for adults too. Top Gun Maverick is another example of accessibility, but in a different way. A sequel 30 years after the original, it's easy to imagine a world where new fans felt alienated or unable to connect with the source material. Instead, the story is able to give old fans the scenes and moments they remember, while also not living in the past or copying the old movie, causing new fans to lose interest. This balancing act is a main reason why Top Gun Maverick was so incredibly popular and is being brought back to theaters today. So that brings us to the first point in our formula. Your movie must be accessible. Understand what people enjoy watching and what they don't want to see. So now that we've discussed who this movie is for, it's time to figure out what it's even about. This leads to talking about genre, and the most popular genre by far, adventure. The statistics back this up. Adventure dominates the box office, with only action even coming close. An adventure story is massively relatable, as almost anyone can see themselves in the story, but it also serves as a medium to present more complex ideas. A perfect example would be the Lord of the Rings franchise. A viewer without any idea of what the films are about can easily jump in and follow along. The hobbits must set out in a heroic quest to destroy evil. But for more intense fans of the lore, there's a lot more going on in the world. The balance of Middle-earth, the relationship between species, how the world operates, etc. Utilizing multiple levels of storyline are key to attracting different viewers. Some people want a deep, complex narrative to delve into, while others just want to watch and not have to think too hard about the details. The ability to create a storyline that can have a strong surface-level plot with deeper-seated details is key in attracting watchers. So point 2 in the formula. Support multiple types of viewer. Don't box yourself into superfans or hate watchers. So, with audience out of the way, it's time we figure out what content is going to fill the 90 minutes, because an adventure is pretty vague. I describe my weekly trips to the grocery store as an adventure. Many of the top films also fall into the fantasy category. People tend to enjoy plots that are out of this world. An audience would generally rather see politics in the Senate of an intergalactic confederation than real courtroom footage. Having an adventure into a created world indirectly pulls the viewer into this world and acts like an escape from reality. This seems to be true for alternate world scenarios as well. Films like Jurassic Park and The Grinch take place on Earth, but in an alternate timeline. Fantasy doesn't force you not to use the real world, but giving it some sort of creative or unique twist goes a long way. Fantasy also helps with the action, as it's easier to portray cartoon action and violence than real blood and guts. You're not going to see a PG-13 rating next to Django anytime soon. Just as important as what's in the movie is who's in the movie. And no, I don't mean if you want Brad Pitt or Timothy Chalamet. Tim Sham, wow, I'm a good actor. I mean the characters in the film. Who's our protagonist? This is where it starts to get tricky. I can't tell you, Spider-Man is the most popular, so do a Spider-Man movie, because obviously it doesn't work that way. But what we can do is analyze the characters in question and come away with what makes them good characters and then how to replicate this and create our own good characters. Looking through the top 20 films, about half have protagonists who are considered superheroes. Beyond this, there are other characters who still implement superpowers, but are not directly considered superheroes, such as Rey in Star Wars. The third category of protagonist is portraying a real/normal person, but even these characters wouldn't really be considered ordinary. And lastly, we have protagonists via animal, namely a feature of animation, and should not be attempted with a real Lion King. Going back to an earlier point, the fantastic seems to be what garners most attention. 3 of our 4 categories fall into the fantastic, with the last category being on the edge of fiction and fantasy, and I think there are plenty of reasons why this is. First, again, movies are an escape for people from their daily monotonous lives, so generally they'd see something that functions as an escape. Whether it's the world of Avatar, the Avengers saving the world, or a fish finding her fish family in the ocean, people like to see a protagonist they wouldn't regularly see in the daily world. These extreme characters also allow for extreme characterization. Spider-Man is the perfect modern example. While Spider-Man is dealing with slinging web and saving the world, he's also still a human boy going through high school. As super as he may be, he still deals with the same problems that us watching do. It may seem like a small detail in the grand scheme of the character, but it's all it takes to ground a fantastic character in reality. So this was a lot of character speak, but where does that leave us? Well, obviously the characters you use should depend on your movie, though I think we've discovered the strongest types of protagonists. Utilize the fantastic by giving your character abilities that are superhuman, but keep them relatable by giving them human problems. Dory has memory problems. Spider-Man has biology class. An out-of-this-world power with an inside-this-world problem is the key. Obviously, the formula isn't perfect, as it can't account for big marketing budgets, previous franchises, or a huge funding startup. But I still hope it was informative, and thank you for your time.